to introduce our first speaker today.
Can they hear? No.
It's my pleasure to introduce the first speaker today. Professor Beatrix Cuza is a professor of English linguistics and vice rector for teaching and studies at the University of Cologne. Beatrix is also vice chair of the executive board of the Coimbra Group and chief development officer for eUniWell, European University for Wellbeing. And it's this topic that Beatrix is going to explore in her talk today, entitled Generative Artificial Intelligence and Wellbeing in Higher Education.
Yes, good morning everybody. Thank you, Tony, for this very kind introduction. And first of all, many thanks to the hosts here for having us. It's a wonderful event. It's also a wonderful location here, as you were saying, Nicoleka, being here in the Standard Room and talking about AI with this kind of, with these kind of surroundings. So I do think that will enhance our well-being, but more on this in a minute. And thank you for the very nice dinner last night. Without further ado, I'd like to begin and show you what I have planned for today. This is my agenda, so I'd first like to set the scene a bit of where we are at the moment, then move on with what I mean by a well-being agenda and try to conceptualize well-being just a bit, to then move further towards understanding generative AI, and some of the things you've heard yesterday will probably be repeated, even one diagram, very interesting, so we were thinking of similar things. And then in the main part, more or less, I'll link well-being with generative AI with a number of 4 dimensions I have come up with. And then the final part will be on innovation and the role of the humanities, because I am more or less from the humanities, and I do think that we have to stand up and that we have a role to play in this connection. So this is how I would like to begin. All of the images you see here are, of course, generatively AI generated, as you can see. And there are some, bits and pieces I'm going to refer to as well. Now, you've heard this before. Our world is sometimes defined as both VUCA and BANI, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible. How daunting does this sound in a way? And at the same time, we are still here, we can still laugh, we can still share those moments of being together. This is perhaps a summary of all the various challenges we're currently experiencing, from the fact that our planet is on fire to the horrible wars on this planet, as well as the very remarkable elections in the US, and so on and so on. This is my way of summarizing this at the moment. I'll come back to a number of things in the course of this presentation. Now, as regards a definition of well-being, and this is a definition I'm referring to, or we are referring to in the European University for well-being, and we are still conceptualizing a few things here when we talk about well-being. This is Emmanuel Deneuve and his colleague Layard talking about well-being, how you feel about your life, how satisfied you are. We mean the thing that ultimately matters, your inner subjective state, so subjective well-being, and the quality of your life as you experience it, how happy you are in the overarching good, and other goods like health, family, friends, income, and so on are good because of how they contribute to your well-being. So there is this subjective notion of well-being and how it can be defined from their book here, where they do a number of studies also related to the other issues here that play a role when well-being is defined. Subjective well-being, which of course, as you can imagine, if you define things going well, and now you can all think for yourself what you would say, then this means different things for different people, for different communities, and perhaps and most likely for this planet as well. Now, if you go back, you have definitions of well-being that go back to ancient history, the eudaimonic approach of well-being, where you don't just look at the individual alone, but you also refer to a purposeful life in a community. And this is also relevant. So you're not just an individual, but you also might want to lead a purposeful life as a human being in a community for your surroundings and so on. Very important. And then the hedonistic approach, of course, relates more to your inner state. If you are a hedonist, I hope we all are in a bit, because it's important. So it's that balance you see already, referring to what I've said before, how our world is defined. There are huge complexities, there are huge contradictions of, how we can define things. But I do feel that talking about the good life is very important these days. How do we reach this, both through eudaimonia and at the same time through, also a subjective approach. And then, of course, big interdependent and contradictory issues related to human rights, related to sharing, and also to the digital transformation. Now in Uniwell, I have to say this, of course, because this is how I was inspired, having done this for quite some time now, leading this European university. We have this definition in our mission: together we'll help create a world in which individual, societal, and environmental well-being are in synergy, in which we flourish and prosper together. Which means, with this holistic approach to well-being, and I'm coming to AI, but it's important that we get this, we have 3 dimensions at least: the individual approach, the societal approach, how communities interact with one another, and we focus on planetary well-being. And there are approaches now, also from the environmental humanities and others, that say we can no longer just focus on the human being as such. There is a synergy, there has to be equilibrium between human beings and more than human beings, as it is said. So this is what we have to achieve. And so for Uniwell, we have defined a number of areas here: health and well-being. So it's not just health, as one would assume, but also social equality and well-being, environmental change, culture and multilingualism, and teacher education. Just so you see a holistic approach to well-being that we'd like to follow. Now, with regard to generative AI, that's why I asked Pina yesterday why she hadn't mentioned Ada Lovelace. For me, very important as a woman, highly inspiring woman at the time, just doing her thing with, of course, in a man's world as a programmer. And at that time she said, the analytical engine has no pretensions whatever to originate anything. It can do whatever we know how to order it to perform. Which then was right. Now this has changed, because generative AI models and systems are originating things, as you know. In addition to the hype on AI as such, Amy Webb, a futurist, has said that AI is just one part at the moment of a so-called tech supercycle that also goes together with ecosystems of interconnectedness and biotechnology. And it is currently within this tech supercycle that we are trying to interact as well, which puts more pressure on everything we have to do. So that's very important and affects our well-being in all sorts of ways. Because if you look at, for example, different gadgets, they will move towards advising you as an assistant, what you should do if you use an iWatch or whatever, or if eventually you will have a chip implanted where you just enter a room and then your bills are paid for you and so on. This is where we're not yet, but we are going there. So here's just a definition for you, again, on generative AI. I'm not going to read this. This is just, I will share the material afterwards so that you've got one for whatever it's worth. So the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. especially computer programs. And AI, and this was mentioned yesterday as well, is a broad overall term and often misleading term for a variety of approaches. I'd like to stress this. Generative AI, think ChatGPT, is a subfield of AI focused on generating content. And ideally, we use always the narrowed term. So if I talk about generative AI, I also mean it. And AI is what I think also a very political term. We have also already heard about the so-called ChatGPT moment in late 2022. Since then, what has changed is that these models are no longer just restricted to experts, but we all have access to it, or at least it feels like it. Let's put it this way, right? And this is why many of us felt our realities have changed, although AI and generative AI was there before. I mean, we are in a world of algorithms and probably governed and determined by it more than we think. And we are seeing this widespread technological systems that are meaningful learning and creating in real life contexts. So that's very important, and this has issues in relation to equity and representation and power. And you have seen this yesterday as well, so we had the same kind of diagram. I was saying to Emmanuel, look, I've got the same thing, so I kept it in. AI, machine learning, so machine learning is where the computer scientists are working in that field, and I would say is the overall term, and then it comes to deep learning. Now with that, you also find aspects of weak and strong AI where you have different purposes as well. So for example, solving specific tasks, more general tasks, and this is a Klein perhaps that could also be used to focus on this. Now, for generative AI, I like to differentiate us between both models and the systems capable of generating and comprehending multimodal content, primarily language. That's very important. So you have the models, and then you get the systems in different, in different varieties on it. And I think that's important because many of the models, or some at least, are now accessible, and they are being used to be further developed for different kind of systems. That's very important. So this image here should illustrate this. So, for example, OpenAI's GPT-4o, Google's Gemini, and so on. And the model, technically speaking, is a simple file with so-called arrays and vectors in it. That's very important. Now, if you look at large language models, and we in linguistics and corpus linguistics have been working with large language models for quite some time already. So a large language model processes and understands a text input, the prompt, and generates, according to that, some text output. So because of the data that is in there, because of the various levels that are being then used to find the right connections in the data points, which are just calculated and which are just with foresight measures and so on, just really calculated. So there's no thinking in that sense, at least not now. There's no thinking involved. It's just calculation. That's very important. You get something like the University of Cologne is a large German university because these are the positions that then will be calculated because they are frequent and so on. That's very important. Now, this is an important slide, I think, because it shows that you have a huge corpus, the data corpus, for example. Then you have the foundation LLM, the large language model, which gets further examples, and with that is fine-tuned. And the fine-tuning is mostly done through the machine that is learning, but sometimes also still when humans interfere. I find that important because this needs knowledge, this needs ethical issues as well, so who is doing what at which point. And then you have human feedback as well. And we know what OpenAI has done to get that special feedback. Some have called it slavery at some point because people in certain countries were used to give exactly that human feedback. I will come back to this data issue because it's crucial for what we have to observe now and how we have to train the next generation of AI experts and so on. Now, generative AI is everywhere. I like to stress this. This is an overview as well, which you're very happy to use in operating systems, generative AI tools in chatbots, bots, for example, some examples here, specialized tools like HeyGen, which you will see in a minute as well, because I have used it, creates your own avatar, just a little spoiler for you to expect what you'll get later on. And then, of course, generative AI with special applications, becoming your own assistant, so you always then have what you've got. You have the different foundational models, which I've illustrated here as LLM1, LLM2, and so on. And then what happens is that you get some interfaces and front ends, which then draw on, different, foundational models and so on. So we often have at our university, when can I have ChatGTP? That's not so easy to get because for license reasons we are not allowed to use it in Europe and so on, but through front ends, and so this is how currently everybody tries to solve the issue. Very important to have this in mind. Now, current developments in generative AI, agentive AI systems, multimodal, we've heard that yesterday as well, reasoning models such as OpenAI's O1, generative AI in search engines, and so on, new interfaces related to working with data, such as Google's Notebook LLM, which does a podcast for you in like 5 minutes. You feed it with text, and then you get a podcast. Amazingly done. In beautiful American English, fantastic. Just, I was actually shocked or fascinated, I don't know. Another important point I'd like to make, our perspectives on AI. From different perspectives, that's very important because in many cases this happens at the same time. Applications of AI in education, in research using AI, in administration and management, we've heard that yesterday as well, communication and marketing. So there's research on AI, there's deploying, there's operating and managing AI, and therefore there's AI compliance and AI education. I think I don't have to go further into this, but we talked about this. In addition, I think that AI needs to be considered as an interdisciplinary topic that requires, for example, also the humanities, the arts, of course, computer science and engineering disciplines. The image you see here in the back is art created by Kate Crawford with a colleague, where she says that AI is not just technological, not just scientific, it's highly political because it uses our resources, it uses people. And she has created this beautiful image now in MoMA in New York, where this is an example of how Amazon created the speaker, and she shows how much labor you need, how much resources from our earth you need, and so on. Shows the cycle, and then you get this speaker. So very important to remember this. I come back to this. Complex compliance issues that I think we are all currently dealing with at our universities, from the AI Act to data protection, copyright issues, labor laws, and terms of services. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let me remind you again of well-being. Eudaimonic well-being, hedonistic well-being, things going well for everybody, but we also have a purpose in life to serve our community to also now protect this planet. Just that we've got this in mind now. 4 exemplary dimensions of the interplay of AI and well-being. I'd like to talk about the competencies at first, and this is something which will, I think, also strengthen what was said yesterday as well. Now, I do think it's very important in order to take care of these dimensions of well-being, individual, social, as well as planetary. We need the competencies to be able to judge what AI is doing, to work with AI in education, to do research on education with AI, and so on. And for that, in Cologne, we have developed a competence model with different fields of competencies. One is digital education. And with that, we have defined the following concept of post-digital education, which also includes data, information, and content, digital technology, digital responsibility, digital learning and teaching, and new work and co-creation. Because we think that all of this can only be done together. So in order to be able to work together, you have to know how to do this. That's how we want to do this. And rather than talking too much about ECTS, our approach is competency-based. And this is how we'd like to do this by, showing students and learners, everybody, so basically everybody, we are all learners, the path towards what they'd like to choose and what is relevant to them in a dimensional way. It follows the competence framework in a way of how you learn languages. So this is, what we are doing. In addition, so this is just one example, which is too small right now, but you can look at it when you get the slides. So for one particular competence, we have then defined sub-areas in which people can thrive in and can put their energy in. And for that, we'll deliver courses, both online and offline and so on, to follow that particular individual path. So in order to, the claim is for us to be able to thrive and to flourish, to enhance our well-being, competencies in relation to digital education are crucial. And this then is also the holistic approach to AI education, because we have different perspectives there as well. We have to include learning about AI in other contexts from a political and environmental perspective, and we have heard that this is much more difficult to include. AI and other competencies like AI-assisted academic writing and language. This is a huge issue because we have multilingual speakers. Those speakers that do translanguaging in their everyday discourse, they move from one language to the other. The prompts, the machines are not yet able to understand this, or the speakers are not yet capable of prompting. So we have to take care of that, I think. How does educational technology safeguarded access to different models and systems, providing educators and learners with AI-powered tools, and integrating generative AI into existing offers? This is something we're doing at the moment anyway. And possible contradictions here. A pressing need for building competencies, including a scientific habitus. After all, we are mostly at universities, so everything we're doing has to be science-based, I think. How do we make sure that this is happening? Generative AI is challenging uniquely human domains, cognitively complex and a creative task as well. We have to also renegotiate roles and expectations. How do we make sure that our people in the management and so on are skilled up to do this? Which new roles do we need? Prompters and so on. This is a huge parallel process. Possibly contradictory narratives and discourses, AI is an accelerator for growth and human productivity versus AI has a chance to focus on meaningful things, but also besides wage labor. So what is happening here? How do we deal with all of these fears, these different discourses? What is done to other, I would say ideologies, religions, and so on that are guiding us and have been guiding us? How is this happening? In addition to that, I'd just like briefly to refer you to the World Happiness Report 2024. It says that for the very first time, the younger generation is no longer as happy as the older one. And this relates to social media, especially social media for the girls, and gaming for the boys. There are reasons for this. On the other hand, there's this huge interest in AI and also an excitement. How do we deal with this? Actually, for example, Germany and especially America went down this ladder in the World Happiness Report. And for social media, we talk about Gen Z being highly computer literate, but they also fear the uncertainty about generative AI and so on. Data, what I'm very concerned about. Remember how I said, we feed the models and we know that data are biased, especially at those points here where humans interfere and do have power to do this. So the question of data has at least these dimensions. Data that are available and being used. There are issues of inclusion, exclusion, representation, copyright, synthetic data. It's sad now, because of our restrictions, the LLMs are fed in such a way that they are now just producing themselves. Everything we get now is synthetic. So we have to decide what else is there that we allow the machines then to use, and how we try to make sure that we still produce original texts in a very general sense. Then the quality of the data, selection process, garbage in, garbage out, objectiveness, reliability, and validity of data. From my perspective, objectiveness is a myth anyway, but you know what I mean, probabilistic models, hallucinations, truth, and so on, and the value of data, gaining access to high-value data, diminishing value of data that can be generated. In some of the models, some semantic web nets are used that show a number of problems with how people are being categorized, for example. Now, planetary well-being. AI is not just scientific or technological, but both, and this is Crawford, embodied material made from natural resources, fuel, human labor, infrastructure, logistics, histories, and classifications. I think it's very important to remember this as well. Just think of the energy we will have to use, and OpenAI has said they're building 5 power stations, to just serve their own purpose. Final point, AI and security. Another very important point, some claim that we are in a sort of war in the field of AI and artificial intelligence anyway. Safety and security, I would say, is key to well-being. So there are multiple perspectives there as well. Social and economic security, changing labor markets, truth and discourse like deep fakes, civil rights, mass surveillance, and international relations and conflicts. AI is a military, economic, cultural, and capability. So this is something that's going on already. And hybrid warfare, including disinformation, which is where we are in at the moment as well. That's why we are fighting so hard to differentiate deepfake and misinformation from other aspects. And that is why, and I'm coming to an end, I do think also that the humanities have a huge role to play here. Now, what I've done, and I have to show you this, I've created my own avatar with HiGen. And just listen to this. I will be quiet now.
Welcome to the high-level Coimbra seminar on artificial intelligence.
This is not me speaking. This was created. I think it's scary. It's really scary. So this was just done by this program. You can use it. It's safe. But I just wanted to show you this. If I can do anything, I think we have to ask ourselves, also in relation to well-being, how do we as human beings want to be and live in unity with the planet and more than humans? Which values do we have as a human being? If my work is not or no longer deemed important or valuable, because you can just do it like this, what is uniquely human? Intelligence, culture, creativity? Remember the word, why it is so discussed that we talk about artificial intelligence, because some claim it's not intelligent in the human sense. So various realities and narratives about the status quo. Oh, sorry. Now, you don't want to hear that again. It's just now. Carolyn Levine says that for the humanities, it's high time to stand up, not just say that there are so many complexities, so many contradictions, but become activists. This is what she's saying, and here you see one who is becoming an activist because of what's happening, and because I'm fed up that humanities departments are just erased from the scene because they are not output-oriented enough. So we have to stand up as well and change our agenda a bit, because we really, I do think, have a role to play here in also answering these questions. And in digital humanities and corpus linguistics and so on, we already play a crucial role and do things in a way that's now important. And with regard to languages, I have to say something about languages. And as a linguist, language creates and will always create realities. And here we are talking about large language models. So it's quite striking that we are not more involved in the developments, both of the models and the systems. Some are, many linguists work for Google and so on, but you know what I mean. And also with regard to language data and AI and so on. And I do think that that's why I'm claiming it has to be inter and transdisciplinary. So how do we mitigate risks with fostering innovation? To which norms do we align AI systems? And what status do we grant autonomous AI systems as such? And these are real life questions right now. And for that, I do think, A, we have to work and co-create together, but the humanities need to play a role there. And this will also affect our way of how we define innovation. Innovation, so far I would say it's very technologically defined. Innovation is always related to how the technology works. I think here this is an EUA definition, a process of knowledge co-creation and transfer based on open and systematic interactions between academia, government, the private sector, and the general public, drawing on the entire research and development chain on the sphere of education and training, as well as capabilities and resources for innovation uptake. This is the approach we should take to talk about what innovation means. And by the way, innovation always needs maintenance. So it can't just be just innovation all the time. We have to maintain what we've got. We have to really make sure that people need what they need and get what they need to be able to use all those tools and to be able to work with them. So I could, as somebody who loves Salman Rushdie, refer to him, and who loves literature, and refer to him by this quote and say, we should tell better stories than the ones we're currently telling, those that are not, as he said, marked by the fake news and so on. He also says a novel cannot defuse a bomb and so on, so there are probably limits to some extent, but it's important that we stand up in that way to take on our roles. And he did it despite the fact that he was attacked yet again and almost lost his eye. So well-being and generative AI then, here to sum this up. Co-creating with AI tools, this is AI tools, it's the co-creation that I would like to stress. It's systematically considering established as well as new processes, is also renegotiating roles and the role of AI within and so on within teams and the organization. And so here some observations again and questions. I've also more questions than I have answers. It's not, AI is no longer a theoretical debate. It's happening as we speak, that's very important, but a material fact influencing our lives and the planet. It's not new, the quality recently changed, and it's very dynamic, that's the difference, but many of the underlying questions are rather old. There's both enthusiasm and skepticism and fear at the same time, and both are valid. But we can use them. So, who sets the norms for whom and when? Who has power in all dimensions? And how should power be distributed? What needs to be given for AI to support well-being? And needs extended and interdisciplinary dialogue and trust. Within the military sphere, they say that trust is what can now help us to protect ourselves from the wars, also the cyber wars we are experiencing. A clear commitment to and focus on facts, education that enables both important conversations and individual autonomy. And some of you know I'm a real sports fan, so to arrive at this beautiful backhand by Roger Federer, you know, would be my aim to arrive at that. But Roger Federer said as well, effortless is a myth. So we have to work very hard to achieve this kind of well-being where we're in sync. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beatrice. That was incredible. And bringing us back to the other side of the AI equation, the most important one, the humans, and how we deal with that. I'm sure we've got some questions for you.
Well, first I would like to really, at least on my personal point, one is thank you, Beatrice, because this was really an incredible presentation that's fostered in my mind
thank you.
reflections, and also thank you for bringing this very deep reflection on now the human aspects of AI. So really, first,
Yeah,
I would like to
thank you.
Thank you for that. It was very timely. Seminar. I will have a lot of reflection, but one now that comes to me is, for instance, when we look at how recently, in terms of policy developments, and I will just refer to some of the Coimbra group analysis of how research and innovation is developed and fostered, for instance, just very pragmatically at European level with the different programs and so on. We have this now tradition of using the so-called technological readiness level, TRL, and Coimbra Group has actually been advocating that we also need to use the so-called societal readiness level, SRL.
Yeah.
And I now wonder, is actually AI and Gen AI not a perfect example of the strong disconnect between the two scales?
Yeah.
One, the TRL is basically so. The SRL is basically totally lagging behind, and this disconnect is now creating this fear, uncertainty, hype, all those contradicting feelings that basically related to these two totally disconnected scales.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, I do think that's related. And first of all, just one disclaimer. I just really do think that supporting research, innovation, and education is key for the university, and you know, you have all opinions. Why don't we get this? Why don't we do this? On the other hand, well, I've been using this, I need this. And you have to, you know, make sure that when do I get guidelines and compliance and so on. So all of the, of the various opinions you can imagine are around. But I do think, and I deeply believe this, and please do read the Atlas of AI by Crawford, then you know what AI is about. It's not just technological and it's not just scientific. It has to do with us as human beings because, you know, the resources from the involves skilling and training, involves simply information, how the systems functions, taking people wherever they are, bringing them into communities to learn about things. That's why I said we are all learners. We are all doing this. I mean, this is a learning event, isn't it, as well? So yes, I do think that's the case. What I see for the Commission, I see a lot of many words that, for me, create the world of competition more than co-creation. I'm not sure whether that is the right way at the moment. It's all about Europe being competitive and so on. I'm not sure whether that is also what enhances or that supports people to actually read about this, get into this. And then we are talking just in our bubble. Because we are literate and so on, we can do this. We still haven't, I mean, this probably just captures 5% of the citizens of a city. This is, I think, that's worrying. Why is it that in a German country, in the former eastern part of Germany, in one city, 50% of the 18-year-olds vote for the Green Party, the Democratic Party, and so on. 50% vote for the German AfD. Why is that? Dressed like that, and so on. What has happened? So I do think this is our task here as educators. I really do think we have to invest even more in this. And for me, one way is combining research and education, what Coimbra Group stresses as well, and combining what you've just said. But it's it will be work to do, and money, resources.
Okay, let's take one more question and then move to the next speaker. I'm sure you'll have lots of questions in the coffee break as well, Bridget.
Just to follow up, I guess, the point about bringing more sort of the social responsibility around AI into education. Intuitively, a lot of that has to start earlier than in our institution, in the universities, right? And I just wondered if you had, in your sort of work, whether there are any thoughts, because we've looked a little bit at how higher education in other areas or for other purposes can engage with the school system. For example, in science education and so on. So a lot of this is around sort of STEM but I'm wondering if this is an area as well where that those links need to be what can higher education do to kind of prepare the generation that's much younger already in our houses.
Oh, thank you for bringing this up, because I, of course, didn't have the time to talk about this. What I do think, given the multilingual classroom, for example, and the fact that we probably or already have, I think, more than 70% in a classroom, be it the younger ones or the teenies, where you have more than one language around. So I think this is one point, because if language abilities are not fostered, this is one way of how you, can follow simply the teaching and learning. If you don't know the languages being used, and this holds true for both the teachers and the students in class, there's a huge issue. So we are doing something there because we're having a huge program on English, German, and so on as second languages and so on for teacher education. So we are training the next generation of teachers in that field, plus adding to this digital education as well. So it's highly complex to do this. It's highly complex, but this is a very concrete example where we try to do this. And doing this also compulsory, we are currently discussing this with the government, that perhaps now German as a second language has to probably even become a subject there. So I see my entry point is through languages there. There are other parts as well. I would say, we've heard math teaching, of course, is another area, but this is what we are doing. Thanks for mentioning that.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next speaker. But thank you once again.
Good morning. Cannot make it today. So today we are going to check, to see what we have done. So at first we will approach why a survey on generative AI in academia, then the opportunities and concerns, the trends that we have noticed around thanks to this survey. To policy or not to policy? This is the question. So this has been raised many times yesterday. We will see what's the answer so far. And then some tools adopted and those forbidden. So we'll see that too. And then training and trends on training in our academias. And then some conclusion. So to start, why a survey on generative AI? Well, we have seen yesterday about the boom, so we had different waves of AIs and approaches. Yesterday, Professor Wade said correctly that there has been a boom from 2023 on. So a lot of users actually approached AI, and this is the reaction we had in many academias as well. So it touched education, and one of the first reactions to that was panicking. What should we, how to deal with that? What should we do, and so on. So this is why basically we started discussing in Turku 6 months ago, something like that, yes, about that. Do you have a policy? So we started asking into the Education Innovation Group to our colleagues, do you have any policies on AI? No, and do you? And what to do, how to deal with that, and so on. So we wanted then to launch this survey to understand if we do have similar trends towards our institutions. And then also maybe to foster member collaboration. So it's important to open a discussion, and maybe we can cooperate on understanding how to deal with that. And then also we wanted to promote and disseminate common good practices on the uses of AI so far. So it's pretty new, but yes. And so we launched this survey amongst the Coimbra members called Generative AI Policies and Practices in end September. So those data are still fresh, let's say that. And as Nicoletta said, we love to continue and to approach the topic again in the future, also to see differences. So over surveys participation, so far we have 37.5% of Coimbra's university answering our survey. It means 15 members actually submit their answers, and we do have the right targets, I'll say, because those who answered are IT specialists, are directors of learning and teaching, and so on. So those that should be informed and on charge of those aspects. Always look on the bright side of life. So let's see what are the opportunities and common concerns amongst AI. We asked in the survey to identify amongst a list the main opportunities. And is perceived, so generative AIs are perceived as an opportunity. We do have as first opportunity to use for pedagogical content creation. So we do use generative AI to realize contents, to help us in those tasks. This is an interesting aspect because we'll see the concern later on. And then second, automated administrative tasks. We do have a lot of bureaucracy. AI is an opportunity for that, to faster our processes. And then using research and data management also has been named as one of the important ones. Later on, we do have personalized learning and new potential in assessment practices as well. We also asked others opportunities. So some people mentioned that introduce ethical concerns, and this is seen as an opportunity. So we have the opportunity to start a discussion with our students over the presence of generative AI in our lives, for example. We do have some teaching and learning improvement as well, and teaching and learning innovations that have been realized thanks to generative AI as well. On the concerns and challenges, so here we do have a clearer difference than for the opportunities. So every member answered that academic integrity and plagiarism is the main concern. This is the first one. Everyone mentioned that. And that's very interesting if we do consider that we said that one of the opportunities to create contents, but at the same time, one of the concerns is related to plagiarism. Then we do have the quality and the reliability of the contents generated, as well as privacy and data security as major concerns. Later on, we do have the biases and fairness. Beatrix was talking about inclusion and so on. So it touches 7 out of the 15 interviewer half. Yes, said that. And then we do have inclusion and availability, so the gap, the technological gap, as well, and staff resistance, dependencies, and skills erosions comes later on as well. On others, well, there are concerns related to resources and regulation. There's the fear to become dependent of the big tech suppliers, and this is understandable, actually. The occurrence of shadow AI arising, compliances as well, ethical discussion. And then another group of concerns touch the changing skills requirements. So this is something seen as a new challenge. We do need to change our approach towards teaching and learning because of this advent and this energies. So yes, a lack of AI skills has been noted in many universities. To policies or not to policies? Let's see what they answered. Does your university have a formal policy on the use of AI? Everyone is working on that. So it's an urgent matter for quite everyone. It seems that the majority of our institution decided to have a policy on that. Just, I think, 2 members answered they decided not to have it. And the policies impact the main population of students and academic staff in the university. Researchers and administrative staff at the moment are not so much touched by those policies. The responsibility over the application of those policies, well, relies on vice rector for teaching, so deans, sometimes committees, teaching staff, and then everyone. So we do not have, at the moment, enough data. We have seen that everyone is building their policies. So at the moment, we do not have enough data to have trends, to identify tendencies. But we can say that policies do not seem very, very strict. At the moment, we do have a lot of principles, a lot of suggestion, recommendation, so far.
So, regarding the generative AI tools, what are the tools that are adopted, what are the tools that are forbidden? Many universities, so about half of our universities officially adopted one tool, and for most of the university it's Microsoft Copilot. Why? Just because Copilot is available quite easily for the universities, since they already have Microsoft licensing. Many universities also use, of course, ChatGPT, and we have quite a few numbers of specific tools, for example, Cite or Elicit, which are tools to provide research support, or Trinca, which is a tool to provide help in writing, so writing papers or writing documents for students, for example. And of course, they also mentioned all the AI companions that are already embedded into Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, and all those video conference tools. And in general, there is no strictly forbidden tool, except those which are not allowed by the AI Act. Of course, if the AI Act says that the tool cannot be used, of course, the university don't use it. Otherwise, there is no specific tools. We can note that in the University of Bergen, there is a specific rule that the tool, the tool need to have a data processor agreement. Why those tools? Just because it's easiest to use those tools, in general Microsoft, and they have agreements, they have all that. So perhaps, and we will reflect on it on the conclusion, it can be also useful to have other tools, to have other possibilities, because right now we are quite focused on one specific tools and not trying the different tools within the university. Regarding the training and the professional development, there are quite a huge difference between students, academic and administrative staff. There is training for students for approximately half of our respondent universities, and in general those trainings are online courses. Often there is something to offer to the students to know how to use generative AI. We have one example on specific recognition using micro-credential, but otherwise it's only online courses to give information to the students. Regarding to administrative staff now, we see that there is much more offers for training. Approximately 80% of universities are offering training for administrative staff, and on the contrary of the students, the most most used way to do that is through workshop, to really have hands-on the tools and the AI. So there is a vast list of examples, but in general, what is important for academic staff is to have examples on how to use AI in a course, in a classroom, in assessment, in different ways, and how to discuss with other teachers and other academic staff. For administrative staff, it's less, a bit less, 60% are offering courses and training, and again, it's always in workshop and mostly in workshop mode, just because it's easiest to have discussion, to have hands-on, and to really test the different type of AI. And many universities are offering resources, but in general, those resources are either in their intranet, so we cannot provide you those resources, or are in the original language of the university. For example, I know that there is 2 online courses, one from Durham, so it's in English, but the other one is from Krakow and it's in Polish, you need registration and so on. So it's kind of difficult sometimes to access those resources. It's something that we want to do. We haven't done it yet, but we will do that later on. Now to conclude, on opportunities and concerns, we have seen that generative AI is an opportunity for teachers and administrative staff. All universities say that they find it as an opportunity. They are less anonymous regarding the benefits for students. We have seen it yesterday with the student voices. Even the students say that generative AI is not that good for students, but it can be used for them. And the main issue is the problem of plagiarism, the problem of ethics, and the problem on data reliability. For now, we don't have any examples of one university that use widely generative AI for all people within the university, from teachers to students to administrative staff. Regarding the policies, it's a work in progress. Only 2 universities already have one, and it's not very precise yet, but the vast majority feels that it is needed to have one policy for the university. However, it's not possible to have a policy for one university that applies to another, since it will depend among different universities, among the tools that are used, and of course among the regulations of the countries.
On tools adopted and forbidden, we have seen the Copilot at the moment is the most used. mainly because quite every university has a Microsoft license and so on, so it's the easiest one. At the same time, we have seen that there's the concern about relying and be dependent in this case, from Microsoft, for example. So at the moment, we do not have any university that is specifically testing widely other tools. There's no the tool, as François wrote on this slide. We haven't identified a tool that will be adopted on generative AI at the moment. It's still early. We do have seen that we do not have any specific tools that have been forbidden in our university, with the exception of those known AI Act compatible. So this is interesting. Everyone is open to the advent of generative AI. On training trends, so even if it's a major concern, we have seen that for students we do provide, in half of our university provide something, and those are online courses. So we have concerns of the virtuality and reality that overlap, but at the same time we are offering an online course on this topic at the moment. We are more focused on the academic and administrative staff. We do offer more, and we do offer synchronous activities. So we want them to meet and to speak about that, to discuss, and so on. We do need sometimes a more central approach. This has been named. Often faculties are responsible of this new trainings and seems complicated for some universities. And that's it so far, so thank you for listening.
And of course, if you have any questions, we are there to answer them. Yes, of course, and of course we will discuss it among the interworking group. For those who are not informed, within the Coimbra group there is an interworking group on AI for all the working group within the Coimbra group. So we are discussing about what we can do with AI and how we can deal with AI in a wider perspective. So of course we will discuss it. Yes?
I think there's another point really, is we have, also, as I explained yesterday, we're sort of looking at what's being done in this space. And one of the things that's being done in this space is lots of university associations or their equivalents or non-profits in the US or various are doing surveys to institutions on AI. And so I'm wondering whether indeed it's sort of like how we sort of do this going forward to what this question burning but the other question I had is that I showed, and it's just a reflection, I showed this work being done in the UK on terms of maturity models and so on, and the question is sort of almost defining indicators. I mean, that's a big
Not yet, I'll say.
We didn't did that yet because it's a quite recent survey. But of course, it's something that we want to do to have a more wider view and a more wider perspective within the Coimbra group, of course. But if OECD wants to cooperate, and we can discuss with each other to do that. No problem.
And yes, and also so far the adoption of AI is still a bit critical, as Vincent Waite said yesterday. It costs a lot for universities. So at the moment, we have noticed that a lot of universities are starting with that, but not yet enough data.
Yes.
Another question, but some information. You mentioned
this feature, and that was the moment when I realized, so 8 years ago, I just want to highlight this aspect, that was the moment when I realized that the artificial intelligence is going to play a significant role soon. And sorry for my modesty, but I was right. General AI achievements. Since the release of OpenAI models in 2022, the IT field has been significant advancements and adaptations in AI technology, adoptions in AI technologies. Here are some achievements and developments. First of all, we realized that in some specific tasks, at least, the AI outperforming the humans. However, it still struggles with complex cognitive tasks like visual common sense reasoning or planning. Another important aspect, somehow the leadership related to the AI is now in industry. The development of AI models has shifted from the academical to industry, with the companies producing the majority of new models. And this is a normal thing, because in order to develop these AI models, you need a very strong and powerful infrastructure. So the companies have this in place. This shift is driven by the substantial resources required by the cutting-edge AI research, of course. The next thing is related to generative AI investments, and I will give you some numbers later on in my presentation, talking about Microsoft, of course, investments and in OpenAI. Another important aspect on the AI achievements in this period is related to the fact that AI has played a growing role in scientific discoveries, such as synthesizing, organizing molecules, and discovering stable crystals for manufacturing. Of course, when we are talking about AI, and especially using AI, we will need to talk about regulations, rules that needs to be applied. I have to be honest, in this moment, the situation is some sort of gray zone. It's not that clear, but probably in the near future we will have stronger regulation. At least between the United States and Europe, there are some regulations related to AI using. Now, as I promised, I'm going to discuss a little bit about the Microsoft investment in OpenAI. Due to the fact that I started this presentation saying that Centric is a Microsoft first company, of course we have a very strong contract with Microsoft Netherlands, because Centric is coming from Netherlands. And within Netherlands, probably the Microsoft has developed the biggest infrastructure within Europe. So I have access to the OpenAI developers. I'm discussing with them. I'm giving them feedback because I'm using daily basis the GitHub Copilot in my project. And yeah, I have access, of course, to some nice information that I'm going to share with you. Microsoft in this situation has been a significant financial backer of OpenAI. For instance, Microsoft invested more than $13 billion in OpenAI. Is this good? Is this bad? I don't know. Yesterday I read an article. I'm not happy to say this, but yeah, seems that Amazon is going to close the entire division of AI in Bucharest. I'm not sure why they are doing that, but looking at this number, I'm pretty sure that Microsoft did a very good investment. What happened? There are a lot of advanced AI models integrated in the various Microsoft products and services, and I'm going to share with you some of them, especially for code generations. And of course, the OpenAI models into its commercial software and provide access to them throughout the Azure cloud. When it comes to code generation, you have here all the services available in the Microsoft Azure. There are a lot. I have to say that I did some experimentations with some of them, but yeah, for sure, Microsoft has a very good plan in adding also some other services in the near future. The next subject is related to the GitHub Copilot evolution. GitHub Copilot was launched in 2021 and in my opinion evolved significantly since its inception. During the initial launch, GitHub Copilot was introduced as an AI pair programming, leveraging OpenAI Codex model to assist developers by auto-completed code and comments. I started to use this in 2022, so 2 years ago. In the beginning, I wasn't that enthusiastic because the suggestions were not that accurate for developers, and a lot of my colleagues said it's not good. The AI is not in the proper moment to be used. But later on, after a lot of trainings and probably they worked a lot on the accuracy of the suggestions. In 2023, GitHub announced Copilot X, and since then, everything changed in my opinion, because they've introduced this firstly in the Visual Studio. This is the IDE for Microsoft, and since 2023, and I will say you something about this because I've run a couple of proof of concept within Sentry to adopt this. The suggestions were more accurate, and everybody started to understand that this might be used and this might give us more productivity, more code in a short amount of time. And productivity within industry is very, very important. In 2024, so this year's multimodal support has been added to the AI models. Now the Microsoft is not working only with OpenAI, it's working also with Anthropic, with Google Gemini, for instance. And this is very good for this kind of models because the accuracy is growing. So basically, if you are able to build some effective prompting, the AI is going to give you the right answer, the expected answer in this situation. And the last but not the least, other features have been deployed into the GitHub Copilot. Now every developer is able to increase, boost their productivity and of course their quality. The next thing I'm going to discuss, it is the first case study, GitHub Copilot business adoption within Centric. In 2023, I conducted a proof of concept within the company to evaluate the adoption of GitHub Copilot. At that time, GitHub Copilot offered only one paid license, $19 if I remember correctly. And what did I do? First of all, I selected 25 developers from 5 teams with various experiences. Within the IT companies, probably you know, we have juniors, we have intermediate developers, and we have senior developers. The second thing I've done was to measure, and I thought a lot to find the right key performance indicator for my proof of concept, and we managed to pick up 2 of them, productivity and satisfaction. It's very important for the developer to be happy by using a specific tool. So this is the reason why we add satisfaction in our key performance indicators. After 6 months, the results were, in my opinion, very impressive. Overall productivity increased by 40%. 40 means a lot. With the following distribution. The productivity for the juniors increased with 25%. The intermediate developers productivity increased with 35%, and the seniors increased with 60%. It was amazing because I will give you also some numbers related, and I did the calculations for 250 developers. This is almost the number of developers in Centric IT Solution Romania. As I said, I did some calculations, and the numbers are available into the internet. It's not a secret. So in February was the first month when we calculated, and we just wanted to see, in February this year, just wanted to see how the adoption of GitHub Copilot within Centric influenced the productivity. And in February, this was the extra money we added by adopting this license for 250 developers in Centric Romania. It was amazing, in my opinion, and this is growing because the suggestions from the GitHub Copilot when it comes to code generation are amazing. Additionally, I conducted a personal experiment, which is why I refer to myself as manager undercover, because I like to write code daily basis, and I'm doing that. I joined a team of 5. I was the only backend developer, and the other 4 worked on the front end. I did the project on the back end with the .NET and C#, of course. My colleagues on the front end worked with Angular, TypeScript. This was the framework for the front end. I asked for time because I'm a member in the management team in Romania, and they gave me 12 hours per week to work by using GitHub Copilot. So having 5 days of work, but I'm working like 6 per week. I worked like 12 hours per week, and I delivered backend functionality equivalent to a week's worth of work for all the front-end developers. They didn't use GitHub Copilot. I used GitHub Copilot only on the backend. So alone. I have experience. I really like to like code, but this was not expected also by me. It was something very, very interesting. What did we learn during this period? Everybody involved, including myself, learned how to build effective prompts. So, in my opinion, this is the next skill a developer should have in the next 2 years. Prompt engineering. They need to know how to create effective prompts by using the real context, by giving all the information for the generative AI in order to get the right answer in the end. And of course, as the result of this case study, the GitHub Copilot has been adopted in Centric level, and the overall productivity has been increased substantially. What I'm doing nowadays, and this is the second case study I will share with you. The second case study started almost 1 month ago when GitHub Copilot changed the licenses price model by introducing 3 options. The most significant one was the enterprise. Why? Is very simple, because the enterprise allow us to train custom models, and for me it was a next step for innovation, because we have in Centric more than 40 million lines of code in active projects. So basically, I will be able to train custom models to write some sort of centric code, let's say, because we have this kind of code. So what I will be doing in the near future, I will try to modernize some of our application by I don't know, migrating code PL SQL into C#, or Oracle Forms into C#, or Python into C#. This is also might be the case. I already told you about this. I would like to draw some conclusions to my presentation. Very of all, of course, the introduction of AI within Centric was a very good choice, because our productivity increased a lot by using the AI tools. The second important thing for me and for Centric as well is related to the fact that now, by using the enterprise license, I will be able, starting with Monday next month, to train some custom models, and probably, I'm not sure if this is going to work from the first shot, but I'm pretty sure that adjusting the model, we will be able to generate internally a lot of code, and quality code, because we are paying a lot of attention when it comes to the quality. For us, the AI is now very important, because it gives us the possibility to modernize the legacy systems, and we have a lot of Oracle code, Oracle Forms code, that needs to be translated into .NET, for instance. And the last but not the least, this is a very strategical investment, because, for instance, for the current goal for me, Centric is going to invest my time and only €100, because I'm going to use the license for like 2 months. The enterprise license is €39 per month. Questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's fine.
So thank you for your talk and your examples on how to what you've done with GitHub Copilot. I'm actually different science, and some of my students already say that you don't need to learn code, you just need to learn prompts. What do you think about that?
I have I have to be honest. After 2 years of using GitHub Copilot on my project, on my daily basis work, I'm writing code by pressing tab a lot. So I fully agree with you.
Another one? Here? Yes?
You mentioned in your case study where you had these productivity gains, right? High level, so junior, medium, and senior. The highest productivity gain, if I understood, 60% was in the senior. What explains, as a non-specialist in the sector, what explains that distribution? And in a way, do you have already any reflections about what that means for workforce demand in the future?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. For me, it was very clear. When you are junior, you don't know a lot of patterns, a way of working. You don't know how to look for something. So you don't know how to ask questions. When you have experience, you know to ask, okay, what does this code? What can I rewrite this code, I don't know, more clearly? Can you explain it? This is the reason why that amount of productivity was highlighted by the proof of concept. During that period when I worked with my colleagues, I also had a very strong relation with them. I communicated a lot with them, and I realized, for instance, that for the junior developers, GitHub Copilot was a better mentor than probably one of my colleagues in that moment, because a junior is asking sometimes a very stupid question. Instead of looking and searching and seeing if alone is able to answer to that question, he's coming asking, what does this line do? It's a common behavior. With GitHub Copilot, they avoid this kind of questions because they were able to ask the GitHub Copilot what that line is doing. So for me, it wasn't a surprise to have that thing. Meanwhile, after almost 1 year and a couple of courses of prompt engineering, effective prompt engineering, the percentage for the juniors has increased, because now they know how to build this kind of prompts for the artificial intelligence.
Just a quick follow-up then. What's your view on the impact of that on the number of developers we're going to need? Is the cake going to get bigger, so we still need more developers, or do we in fact need fewer developers?
I'm scared. I'm scared also because of my second case study, but on the other hand, I'm pretty sure that the number of developers, from my point of view, today, it's not going to increase, but it's going to be in the same line for the near future. We will need to have developers, that's for sure, but they need to learn new things in order to be, I don't know, to be, I don't find the English word for that, but I have a lot of Romanian words for that. Vandabil.
Just ask.
Easy to sell, let's say.
No, I think it's your turn.
That's actually very interesting to bring, of course, the industry viewpoints in this type of seminar, because we may have maybe a tendency to only look within our own community. So already, thank you for that. Maybe there are very generic questions, and I don't expect that this is so maybe easy to respond to them, but anyway. Do you see where you stand considerations that are related actually to the previous presentation from Beatrix on the inclusion of reflections about the well-being then of the employees in that context? That's number one. And number two, where do you see specific need of cooperation between then the industry and the academia on this topic?
Okay, thank you very much for the questions and for the remarks. I would like to start with the first one. I talked about the productivity, but I told you that we had like two key performance indicators. The second one was satisfaction. So based on the final feedback, the satisfaction by using this kind of tool was 9.8 out of 10. So I'm pretty sure that they managed to realize that they can have more time for other things like creativity, learning, and things like that. So, yeah, the tooling is very important for developers right now. The second question was related to can you
Relationship with academia.
cooperation between it's very important. Probably I can fail in my second case study. Of course, I have a lot of relations with the faculty of computer science. I have a lot of colleagues there, and I can ask for help. This is probably my next step. But for me, when it comes to the artificial intelligence, we have a lot of services being able to do specific things. But when we have to adjust something, we will need to go to the academical area. It's very important. Probably that's why I liked a lot when I started to work for the university, because I have this kind of challenge, and I'm able to learn a lot of things from the academical part.
Yes.
Perhaps a similar related question